Have you ever looked around and felt like you're standing in a graveyard of half-finished hobbies? For most people, the struggle is finding the grit to stick with one thing. But for you, the problem is different and much more confusing. Your problem isn't a lack of focus. It's that you have too many things you want to focus on. You see a dozen different paths, and every single one of them feels like a piece of who you are. You aren't afraid of the hard work. You're simply paralyzed by the choice. Society has a word for people like us. They call us dilettantes. They say we're jacks of all trades, but masters of none. It's a label that carries a lot of weight, making you feel like your greatest strength, your endless curiosity, is actually your biggest career liability. But what if they're wrong? What if the world is changing in a way that actually favors the curious? Today, we're going to dismantle that anxiety. We're going to look at the geometry of a successful career and map out a path for those of us who were never meant to be just one thing. To understand why you feel like a misfit, we have to look at how the world has changed. For the last 100 years, the world worshipped the specialist. Success was like a game of chess. The rules were clear, the paths were predictable, and the best move was to go a mile deep into one single field. Psychologists call this a kind learning environment. It's a world that rewards repetition and narrow expertise. This is the home of the I-shaped person, the expert with one deep, solid pillar of knowledge. But look around. Is that the world we live in today? Not exactly. Today, we live in what's called a wicked learning environment. In a wicked world, the rules are constantly shifting. Feedback is delayed, and the patterns aren't obvious. Think about the difference between a golfer and a firefighter. A golfer operates in a kind environment. The grass might change, but the game is always the same. But a firefighter? Every fire is different. Every building is a new puzzle. In a wicked world, being a hyper-specialist can actually be a disadvantage because you develop blind spots. We still need specialists, of course, but the problem arises when we treat the specialist path as the only path. If your brain wasn't built for a single pillar, it's not because you're failing, it's because you were built for a different kind of world. You just need a different shape. If you want to build a career that actually fits your brain, you have to stop thinking in job titles and start thinking in shapes. Most people fall into one of two traps. There's the I-shaped specialist we just talked about. Then there's the dash-shaped person, someone who is a mile wide but only an inch deep. This is where the jack-of-all-trades anxiety comes from. You know a little about everything, but you have no ground to stand on. But there is a third option, the M-shaped professional. Imagine a shape with 2 or 3 deep pillars. Let's say data science is one and storytelling is another, connected by a horizontal bar of diverse interests like psychology, history, or design. Suddenly, you aren't just a distracted data scientist, you are the rare person who can take complex numbers and weave them into a narrative that a CEO can actually understand. That combination isn't just rare, it's incredibly valuable. The secret weapon of the M-shaped person is a concept called far transfer. While a specialist uses near transfer, applying a skill to a very similar problem, a polymath uses far transfer. You see the underlying structure in one field and apply it to a completely different one. You might look at the branching roots of a tree and suddenly see a better way to organize a company's database, or use the harmony of music to write more elegant code. All those random interests you've collected, they aren't distractions. They are a library of metaphors that allow you to see the music, not just the notes. So how do you actually build this M-shaped life without burning out? It requires a shift in strategy. You have to embrace serial mastery. The biggest mistake scanners make is trying to build all their pillars at the same time.
That's a one-way ticket back to being dash-shaped, shallow, and stressed. Instead, you must pick one pillar and commit to it for a season. Think of it as a 6 to 18-month sprint. I know what you're thinking. How do I choose? What if I pick the wrong one? The secret is to lower the stakes. You aren't choosing for the rest of your life. You're just choosing for right now. Pick the pillar that gives you the most stability, the one that pays the bills, or the one that has the most fire behind it today. Give yourself permission to pour your focus there until you reach about 80% mastery. You don't need to be the world's leading expert, you just need to be fluent enough to solve problems without looking at the manual. And here is the most important part: strategic quitting. When your curiosity in that area feels satisfied, you don't just drop it out of guilt, you graduate. You are making a conscious choice to pivot and start building your next pillar. This isn't the quitting of a dabbler who runs when things get hard. It's the graduation of a polymath who is ready to expand. You are moving from one strength to the next, building a foundation that is uniquely yours. To make this lifestyle work, you need a support system, both in your career and in your notebook. First, let's talk about your day job. If your mind is naturally drawn to exploration, you might need to reframe your 9 to 5. Many of history's greatest polymaths, like Albert Einstein, didn't have high-stress jobs that mirrored their passions. Einstein was a patent clerk. That job was his stable ground. It provided the mental surplus he needed to wander the universe in his mind. Your day job doesn't have to be your everything. It is a strategic asset. A low-drain job leaves you with your most valuable resource, cognitive energy. If your job consumes 110% of you, there's no room left for the exploration your brain craves. Second, you need a system to catch your sparks. A scanner's brain generates more ideas than it can ever hold. Trying to keep it all in your head is a recipe for overwhelm and guilt. This is why you need an external brain. Think of the sociologist Niklas Luhmann. He published over 70 books using a system called Zettelkasten. He didn't try to write a book all at once. He just wrote down single ideas on index cards and linked them together. You can do the same with tools like Notion or Obsidian. When you get obsessed with a random topic, say medieval architecture, for a week, take notes. Then let the obsession go. Years later, while working on a web design project, you might look back at those notes and realize the structure of a cathedral is the exact solution for your website's navigation. That is the moment of magic, but it only happens if you capture the dots today so you can connect them tomorrow. You were never meant to master just one thing. You were meant to be the bridge. Pick your first pillar, build your system, and stop apologizing for your curiosity. The future belongs to those who can see how it all fits together.
So, where do you go from here? Start by letting go of the self-blame. You are not a dabbler who lacks grit. You are a polymath in the making. Your brain wasn't designed for the static, predictable world of the past. It was built to navigate the complexity of the future. Here is your roadmap. Pick your first pillar. Commit to it for a season until you're fluent. Value your stability. Use your job as a platform for exploration, not a cage. Build your external brain. Capture your ideas so they don't become a source of stress. The path of the M-shaped professional isn't always the easiest, and mastery takes time. But the moment you stop trying to fit into a single box, a sense of calm will take over. You'll realize that all those seemingly random interests were actually pieces of a larger puzzle that only you can solve. You were meant to be the person who connects the worlds. So go out there, start building, and show us how it all connects.
As we move further into the age of artificial intelligence, the M-shaped strategy isn't just a choice, it's a survival skill. AI is incredibly good at being a specialist. It can outcalculate the data scientist and outcode the programmer. But what AI cannot do is far transfer. It cannot easily connect the soul of a piece of 18th century poetry to the structure of a 21st century marketing campaign. That is a human superpower, and it belongs specifically to the polymath. Your diverse interests are your insurance policy. While the world worries about being replaced, you should be busy integrating. Every new pillar you build, every random book you read, and every weird hobby you pick up makes you more uniquely human and less replaceable. Don't let the fear of being behind slow you down. In a race to the bottom of a single hole, the specialist might win, but in a race to see the whole horizon, you are already miles ahead. The world doesn't just need more experts, it needs more translators. It needs more people who can speak engineering and art, business and ethics. It needs people who can see the big picture. It needs you. So stop worrying about the graveyard of hobbies and start building your library of connections. Your future isn't a single line, it's a masterpiece of many colors.